Hello. Good morning. Deconverted man here. So I was having uh, some thoughts out loud, and I thought, well, why not put it online? Morals. Just thinking about morals. The apologist loves to say that, well, if morals are subjective, then it's okay. Nothing is really good or really bad. What Hitler did, you couldn't say that's evil, because evil's just arbitrary. It's just an opinion. It's just your personal opinion. It's not a fact, because it's not really truly evil, really. So I want to say that person's like, look, let's say that we discover, as a human species, we unearth the truth of the universe is actually that morals are in fact subjective. That scientists agree. There's overwhelming evidence for it. There's nothing that we can. You'd have to be a madman to look at it and say no, that can't be the case. You have to just close your eyes to reality and ignore the overwhelming evidence, right? And so it's proven without a doubt that morals are subjective. Would you really say, well, I guess I can't say what Hitler did is bad because that's just my opinion. I guess I could still say it, but it doesn't really matter. This is just my opinion. It's just my feelings. I'd really like it if you didn't hurt me, but it's just my opinion. It's just my feelings. It doesn't really matter. It's not really good or bad. Ow, I hurt my toe. That's fine. It's just my opinion that it's hurting. It doesn't really matter. It's not really. It's not really bad. It's painful. Well, that's subjective too, I guess. And where does it end? I wouldn't be like, oh yeah. About Hitler, yeah, sure, whatever. I mean, he's just bad. It's just my feeling. It's just like I don't like ice cream. I don't like what Hitler did. Same thing. No, there's a difference there, and not because morals are objective necessarily, but because there's values that we put into things. And it doesn't matter if those values are abstract or not. If you think, well, they have to have this realness to it. The good must really be good in some metaphysical sense, some transcendent sense, some universal sense. It has to be the core nature of reality that there is a good out there that something can be. Why? Why do you think that? Well, because if not, then when you say something is good, it's just a word. It doesn't really have, but we gave the word meaning. Well, there has to be a mind. There has to be a God that made the good actually good. Well, how does that work? Of course, you have the dilemma of, is it good because God says it's good, or is it good because it's good on its own? And people try to get around that dilemma and say, well, it's God's nature, which doesn't answer the question at all. Is it good because it's God's nature, or is it good on its own? Like, if there wasn't a God, would it still be good, or is it only good because God made it good? If it's God's nature, why can't it just be its own nature? All these sort of questions, they're not answered. They can't be answered by the person that wants to make this type of argument because it would ruin their argument. I mean, okay, fair enough, they could give answers, and they probably would because they're apologists and they have to come up with defenses for it. I don't know that I'd be satisfied with those answers, but nonetheless, okay, fair enough. But why can't it just be good on its own? And if you think it has to have a mind, well, what about your mind? Why is your mind or my mind or collectively humanity's mind, if you will, why isn't that good enough? Well, just an opinion, just what we feel. We're going to be judged by history, collectively speaking. You know, goodness knows how. In 100 years, 1,000 years, whatever, if humanity's still kicking around, they'll look back at this time and be like, "What were those nitwits thinking? What were they doing? Look at them wasting their time on their phones. Look at them doing this. And I can't believe that they were, driving around guzzling gas and polluting. And it doesn't make sense what they did. They had a simple solution and they just didn't. They didn't do it. It was just right there, and they didn't act on it. And it was so. How could they have been so blind and dumb? And how could their government, not do? How could they not just unite and say enough is enough? We're going to change this. So we're going to be definitely, absolutely judged by those in the future if they exist. So, well, everything that we do now, for all we know, could be considered bad by the next people that come along. And so that means that there's no good or bad. It's all subjective. It's all feelings. It's all just whatever whim of the current society is. But no. No. At some level, something is actually good, actually bad. And what does that mean? Does that need to be put into a God's hand? I don't think so. Because, well, one, there's no proof of a God in the first place. So all you're doing is you're abstracting the idea outwards and saying, I'm going to say that there's a thing that makes this actually real. Then I'm going to insist that that thing that makes the thing that's actually real is real. And therefore, that thing then is real. And then I can say it's good or bad because I've made good into a thing that's actually good for real. And I'm asserting that that's the way reality is. Well, la-di-da, I can do that too without God. I don't need that extra step. Neither do you. How would the universe look without your God? Well, there wouldn't be a universe without God. Of course, this is the classic non-answer that some theists will give because they don't want to do the thought experiment. Maybe they don't want to do the thinking. But I think about this. I think if there was a God, what would be different about reality as I know it? And it just depends on what God is, what God does or doesn't do, what God can or can't, it depends on a lot of things. So I have to start adding things to that to get to any sort of answer. How would my reality be different if anime was real? Okay, well, which anime? All anime? That would be pretty chaos. Okay. One particular anime? Okay. Where would it be located? Maybe just in Japan, it's all anime. You go there, you land, your plane becomes anime plane. You step out now, you're an anime person. You look at yourself, you're like, man, I'm an anime character. This is weird. You're making weird sounds, and you're able to jump really high or wherever the rules of that anime are. You're in those rule sets. And then when you leave, all of a sudden, at some point, you just turn back and do normal human, and it's just, well, that's just the way reality is, and it wouldn't be weird if that's the way it had always been. So yeah, I can imagine that for you. And what if my favorite TV show was the way things really were for real? What would that look like? Would if Breaking Bad was actually a documentary about somebody, and there are people like that, would any of those events have impacted me if I didn't live in that area? No, probably not. I would have heard it on the news and be like, oh, that's terrible, whatever. Somebody's lives got ruined, and people died, and all this yada yada. And, they'll never find out that the planes crashing is actually because of this other thing. So they'll just blame the Q from John Delancey. They'll just blame him for the planes crashing, and we won't know that. Well, yes, it is his fault, but also it's because his daughter died, and his daughter died because of overdose, and overdose is direct link to all it's this one guy's fault who could have saved her life and chose not to because he wanted control over this other guy's life. We wouldn't know that. So if that universe was real, it really wouldn't have any impact on my life at all. It would have impacted somebody's life at some point, but not mine directly. And if I never heard about it on the news, then or anything, it's just be like it's a thing that happened and I don't even know about it, and it has no impact. So I can still imagine a universe like that, and we can imagine these what's called plausible or possible worlds. And when you say, okay, there's a God, okay, great, let's imagine that. What's God? What is it? What do you think it is? Because that's not up to me. You're the one that's saying there's a God. I'm not. I don't know. What is that? What do you mean? It's just like saying there's a Bigfoot, or there's ghosts, or there's whatever it is. There's magical spells you can cast. Really, that's interesting. How does that work? I did a hangout. I terminated that particular hangout. I didn't think I was doing. I did very well on it. I was kind of tired when I was doing it, but the point I was trying to make in that one about spell, about summoning spirits, and how the person won't give you a decent list of how to do it, and there isn't a guide, a step-by-step guide of how to actually do it, or what to expect, or what the failure condition is, because in the end, it's just tricking your brain into thinking that something happened when something actually didn't happen. If you can see a spirit with your eyeballs, you should be able to record the spirit in some other way with some mechanical mechanism. And wouldn't you be able to record your own spirit? And how would it work in reality? Because if they're able to go through walls, then how is it that gravity is not drawing them to the center of the earth or flinging them off the planet? So now, there has to be an explanation to that. There has to be rules of this made up world if we're going to put that made up world in our real world and say, okay, there are ghosts, and here's how they work. Or here's how they, it's like, well, here's how they don't work. I guess that's, to some degree, that's the thing to do. And that's, many times I've seen that with what God isn't. God isn't this, it isn't that, it isn't this. Well, that doesn't really help me on what it is. Stop telling me what it's not. I'm going to describe an object. It's not soft. It's not white. It's not very large. Um, it's not organic. What am I talking about? You don't know, and I can keep going on and on and on. Like, what the bleep are you talking about? Why don't I just tell you what it is? Okay, it is black. Okay, that's something. It is small. Okay, it can fit in my hand, and it has a battery in it, and you can use it it has buttons on it, and you can use it on some other device, and it will interact with that other device. And maybe you'll figure out what I'm talking about with a few clues, or maybe I need to give more. Like, okay, I was talking about a remote control, TV remote. You figure that out, and you get some arbitrary made up lobster balls or something. I don't know. But telling you what it's not, you'll never know what the bleep. There's no way. If you go on and on forever with it, until you exhausted all the things that it isn't. My word, that list would just go infinitesimally on to before you could hope to get to what it actually is. So God isn't material. What's God made of? It's not made of anything. How does that work? The only sort of when you say God has does God have a brain? No, it has a mind. Wait a minute, how does that work? The only sort of mind I know about is the mind that's caused by a brain. So how do you have a disembodied mind? There'd have to be something that enables that mind to be a thing. There has to be something there that interacts with other things that are there in order for it to do the things that a mind can do. Unless you're talking about a different sort of mind, then you might as well not even use the word mind and use some other word to describe it, because you're not talking about the sort of mind. Whoopsie. We're not talking about the sort of mind we know. We're talking about something completely else. It's completely foreign to all of our concepts. You're saying there's a here's a computer with no CPU in it. Oh, really? And it works. And how does that happen? Well, yeah, look inside. There's absolutely nothing there. You just, what? It's not even plugged in, and it's working. How is this? Here's the keyboard. What keyboard? You didn't even give me one. It's just the screen. And yeah, go ahead and type, and it will just words will appear. Type on what? It's just type. It doesn't matter. It just works. How? What's the belief? How does that work? And you're not told how it works. It's like, I don't know. It's magic. That's what. It's magic. That's how it works. It's magic. But they don't want to say the word magic. They don't want to show their hand. They don't want to reveal that it's all magic. That it's all illusionary. It's not really real. It's fake. It's not a thing. Why? Why do they want to keep that to their those cards close to themselves? Because they believe it's real. Why? Well, there's all sorts of psychological reasons why people believe in things. Can they let it go? Who knows? I don't know. Would it hurt them to do that? Maybe. It might. It might hurt them deeply, emotionally speaking. They may or may not recover from it. Who knows? And then you ask a different question. You go, is it good? So I think I heard a story like this. That somebody had an elderly relative, grandma or something like that was slowly fading away, who believed in God, and they were pondering what use is it to debate them on this. So the grandma knew that they didn't believe in God, and you know they're like, I don't want to debate you in your last days. I want to just, talk about anything else except for that. You say you want to pray, fine, you pray. I'm not going to pray with you. I'll stay quiet as you pray. I'll be with you. I'll hold your hands. I will engage in it, or maybe even I will, just because it comforts you. Because even though I don't believe in it, I'll sacrifice a bit of myself for your benefit, because they're about to die. What benefit does it do for them to get to the point where I deconverted them, if I could even actually do that? What would be the point of that? It's like, well, they would know the truth, but it's like, yeah, well, does that really matter at this point in their life? They're almost done. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, look, by the way, here's into God, and when you die, that's it. Sorry. Oh, okay. I guess you're right. It's like, well, did that really benefit them? And they pondered this. And I'm like, I don't have any answer to you, because I don't know the person well enough. I don't know what I would do in this situation either, to be honest. My duty is to the truth, but to some point, I know that that's going to be challenged, and I'm like, oh, well, And maybe I would say something like, well, maybe there is. I don't know. You could be right. That's the truth. I could say that. Although I've said, well, there's no Yahweh. Yahweh's, logically incoherent. Well, depending on which version of Yahweh, fair enough. But maybe there's something like that. I could say that. I couldn't say that, your belief is completely valid. I couldn't say that. I could say, especially, it depends on what they thought, and how much I knew of what they thought. But nonetheless, I could give to some degree without lying. But it's difficult, these sort of things. That the question of what do atheists, agnostics, skeptics say when somebody's sick, instead of I'll pray for you, I'll think about you. Okay. Wow. Would be now. Look. If I read somebody's been thinking of me, that makes me feel a little better. It's like, oh, that's nice. Somebody cares about me. Doesn't really do me any good necessarily, but maybe it's a little bit nice, a little pick me up. But what do we say? Instead, may logic and reason guide you. May science prevail in the speedy recovery that you of what you face. Maybe there's really not anything that we can say. And it's I'm there for you. I'm here for you. I care about you. I wish this wasn't happening. This sucks. It's unfair. Certainly not getting any better. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Death, mortality. Oh man, that sucks. It's bloody permanent. That's one thing. And as years go by, it's like, yeah, that person's still gone. That that hurts. I don't like that. I don't want them to be gone. It's not right. They were cool. I enjoyed them. Does it do me some good to pretend or make myself believe that they're in some other universe and they still exist somehow? It might. It might make me feel better. But I can't just trick myself into that. I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know what the bleep happens from their perspective. But let's just say, okay, yeah, maybe they're in another universe. That's great, and it's a wonderful, beautiful universe, and they're happy there, and cool. Maybe I feel a little bit better. Still doesn't really help me though, because I still miss them. Because they're still not here, and I want them. Oh yeah, you can still talk to them, I guess. You can write to them, you can think about them, sure, but they're not here, and that's terrible. And I hate that. Mortality just sucks. But of course, people will remind me, yeah, but would you want to live forever? I'm like, I don't know. I want to live for a while, a long time. It's like, I don't know if you've seen it, and if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. The show, The Good Place. Very, very, I think, excellent, interesting show. And they finally confront this problem in the afterlife. You have a perfect afterlife where you can do anything you want, and well, all these people just are sitting around kind of like, I'm just bored. I've done everything. Literally, like I've done everything. Like there isn't anything more to do. I've done it all. There's no more challenge. There's nothing left to learn. There's nothing more to say. There's nothing new to hear. I've done everything. But I can't expire. I just exist. And so they give them a way to expire, and that changes everything. That gives meaning to it. Now they feel like, hey, yeah, we can leave whenever we want. We can be done. That's cool. It's like, look, can you just go to sleep for a while? Just in case you change your mind. I don't know. That'd be me. I was just like, look, I'm gonna sleep for a few years or whatever, and then wake up and see if I feel different about this. Take me a while to decide. It's like, you walk through this thing and then you stop existing. Like, well, not today. Maybe, I'd have to be really bored. But everyone's going to be different about that, and have to have the option is something that my afterlife would have to have in order for it to be a decent afterlife. But just because I can pretend that that's a thing doesn't make it actually a thing. Nerdy wants an annihilation. Yeah, team mortality. Well, I have this sort of thing for that I'm going to donate my brain to science when I go. So maybe I'll wake up in the future. They'll be like, yeah, well, Remember you donated your brain science? Well, now you're a cyborg and you belong to us. I'm like, oh shit. You know, I'm RoboCop. I don't, you know. It seems like a good idea. That well, at least I'm still alive, I guess. You know. But who knows? You know. You know. And of course, people freeze their heads and cryogenically freeze their whole body, hoping that one day we'll figure that out. Like, how do you know that that's what they're doing? Like, well, the company said that. Yeah, but what if they go under? You know, the company has to survive long enough for this to work. I mean, but it's like it's insurance. So they call it life insurance. Well, you know, get insurance for life, like just living. Like I don't get money just for doing that. You should be called death insurance. Like when death comes, we'll give you this money. Why don't I just set aside the money for myself in a bank? Like, is your interest rate better than that? Like, well, we're going to pay out X amount no matter what. You know, that's why you do it. If you do it at all. And you should have a living will and all that. You know, but these sort of things are like, well, how does the non-believer deal with this? And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't have an answer. Everyone's going to be different about it. I think everyone's going to have a different answer to it. How do we deal with mortality? With or without a God, that's a very difficult thing to answer. What's also interesting to me is that how we treat the dead is a weird thing if you think about it. It's like, why don't we just harvest all their organs? Why do you have to fill out a bubble on your driver's license that say, yeah, I'm an organ donor? Why not just assume that they want to do that? You know, well, they want to be buried at sea. I don't care. We'll take their organs and then we'll throw what's left in the sea then. They are gone. So what's it matter? And it's like, no, we don't do that. We don't, because there's this, it, it's this respect of the dead. It's really odd, but it's a thing that we do, and I don't understand it to some extent. There's one guy I think I read somewhere he buried himself with his car because he was going to take it with him. Nobody else could have that damn car. It was his car. They had it buried with him, and they did. They buried it with him. And okay. And years later, you know, however many years, it's gonna be like archaeologists be like, what the? This person was made out of metal. I don't know what's going on. we found some skull and bone. And I don't know what this is. It's metal. I think we found a freaking transformer. You know? How do we deal with that? How do we uh how do we deal with that? I don't know. How do we deal with that morals might not be objective? How do we what do we do about that? And these are not easy questions to answer. Perhaps there isn't an answer, or at least maybe there's not one answer. Maybe there's 50. And we fight and kill each other over it all the time. And I think when you put it off to God and you say, well, God makes this thing really right and really bad and whatever, well, now you're just fighting over that abstraction. You're just adding another abstraction onto why you were going to fight anyways, whether or not there was this idea, because you thought doing this was right, and the other people thought no, doing that is wrong. The God that you believe in said to wear hats on Sunday, and the God that they believe in said never wear hats on Sunday, and so now you have to go to war because God can't be questioned. And if you didn't have that belief, then you wouldn't have gone to war, maybe. And maybe you would have gone to war over something else, but it wouldn't have been that. So isn't that better when you've removed one problem? Possibly, potentially, maybe. But who knows what other problems might take its place? It's like, yeah, I know, but look, at least we got rid of that one problem. In all my years of doing this, I've been a skeptic now 10 years. Whew, man, that's weird. But really, it's been that long? Doesn't? Oh, I don't know. And I see the gray in my beard. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, oh, okay. My avatar needs some gray in his beard. Get somebody to draw that up for me. Um, I haven't heard or read a theist that was in my real life, in my non-internet life, I have, but online at any rate, I haven't found the one that's like, yeah, that argument sucks, and we shouldn't use it. Like it's very rare. Like maybe a couple. I don't know how many times because I have kept track, but it's extremely rare that I've actually found somebody that's like, yeah, this argument for God, that one sucks, and here's why, and they'll make a video about it or something. It's like they'll outline why the argument sucks. Like that's so rare. It's like, well, where's the good arguments against God? It's like, well, yeah, there's a few out there, and mainly they're objections to the lack of evidence that we have, or about well, if you're positing this good God, then why are things bad? Things like this. It's like, well, maybe we could come up with something new and something stronger. I don't know. My thing has been point out the fallacy. And then my thing as late has just been like complain about stuff because I haven't found a new thing to really point out the fallacies of yet. Because it seems like the theists have kind of given up in a way. I haven't found people just here's another argument. It's like it's the same arguments. It's like I'm just repeating myself. It's like okay, well, here's the same fallacies as before. Oh, it's the cloth again. Oh, it's the appeal to design again. What? So it's difficult. And you have to like, oh, okay, well, let's talk about politics. That will piss everybody off. Okay, yeah, sure. Let's try to inject logic into that. Oh, my friend said, Steven said, that's like trying to mix oil and water. I'm like, well, we'll figure it out. I think if you throw in something else, you can make the dang things mix. So morals are what are they? What are your morals? What should they be? What are our ethics? What should they be? What ethical system should we use or do use? Or do we even have a name? And some people don't. Some people like I don't even have a name for my ethical system. It's just kind of a hodgepodge of whatever. I don't know. And it might be very short or it might be a very long drawn out thing. And if it's functional, then it doesn't really matter. But functional in what way? Like, okay, let's pretend that tomorrow all the laws were gone. Would you go out and do X crazy thing? Would you go out and rob the neighbor? And it's like, well, it's legal. I can do it. Whee! Maybe you would. I saw a video because they had defunded the police in one of these places because that's a stupid idea, but they did it anyways. And they basically said, yeah, it's fine. There are no laws or something like that. Or like, you can do this, you can steal this much of merchandise and we won't prosecute you or something stupid like that. They actually put that into practice somewhere. Well, went as well as you would expect. The guy goes into the store, he takes the thing, and he walks out. And people are like shaming him, like, oh, boo, you should do that, boo. They can't stop him because what he's doing isn't illegal. They don't like what he's doing, but they're not doing it. And so what will happen is you will have, instead of police policing things and keeping things in order, you will have citizens doing that. And so what will you have? Social justice. And that's just mob mentality. And goodness gracious, that's going to go bad real fast. Because the mob mind is not like the individual mind. It cannot stop its momentum once it's built up. And it's almost always destructive. Unless it's aimed at a way to not be destructive, which you then need a powerful leader to do that, the mob mentality will be a violent, destructive force that will destroy everything in its path and leave nothing behind except for misery and sorrow and blood and tears. And those people in that mob won't know what they're doing is wrong because they're in the mob and they're no longer an individual. They're part of something else. The military does this to you as part of its training to try to break your independence. Well, I didn't last very long in the military because I didn't, it didn't work on me. I refused it. It didn't penetrate. I didn't let it. I kept my individuality. And I was outspoken. And I was like, you can't do that. You have to be part of the thing. I'm like, but it doesn't make sense. If you're saying we have to follow all these rules, then you have to follow all these rules, and I saw you not follow the rules. Well, but it's not your job to point out that. I'm like, I don't care if it's not my job. If I have to follow these rules, then you do. And I'm going to point it out and make a big fuss about it. It's like, now you're just a tattletale or whatever, and now you're going to get in trouble. Well, wait a minute. I thought that's what we're supposed to be doing. I thought we were all supposed to be telling on each other all the time, so we all behave the same way. I thought that was the point. And if somebody's not doing that, then that's bad. Well, no, because it's like, so it doesn't make any sense. At least not, it didn't make sense to me back then. I don't know if it still makes sense to me now. It's like, why, okay, this person's doing this thing they're not supposed to, so you report it or do you not report it? Well, yes, apparently that's the answer. Very, very strange thing. But we do that because we need them to be cogs in a machine, and we need them to go out and risk their lives to do whatever the job is. And those are tough jobs. Those are not joking jobs. You work. You work when you get up, you work. You take your shower, you brush your teeth, you eat your food, and you work. And then you work and you work and work until lunchtime, and then you work until dinner time, and then you work until nighttime, and then you finally go to bed at like 10 or 11, and maybe you have watch, so you have to wake up at some weird time, stand around an hour watching an anchor, reporting to the bridge on what the anchor is doing from time to time. It's listening to the left, it's listening to the right. I don't know what the hell that means, or what do I do if something weird happens? I'm like, oh, am I waiting for something to crawl up the damn anchor chain? And what am I doing here? I don't know. What's the point of this? And then you go back to sleep, and then you wake up and you do the whole thing again the next day. And you're on I'm talking about the Navy. You're on a boat, so you can't go anywhere. And that's it. That's your life for goodness, however long you're out at sea, which could be months or years. And the only time you get maybe if you're lucky, you get to sit around and hide from the officers and pretend that you work, even though you're done because you did everything there was to do. So you all just sit there and just that's it. You're not really doing anything interesting or fun. You're just kind of hiding. It's like, why can't we just, like? And so the one time the one guy, I'll never forget this. He was like, Green, you're in charge. And I said, we're secured, which means when you say secured, that means you're done. So the moment they said I was in charge, I said, we're secured. So everybody starts going, and you're like, no. You put me in charge. We're done. We are done. There's nothing more to do. We did all the things. This is dumb. Why keep being around here? Why not just release us to the quarters? We're done. Let us be free. let us do whatever we want within, reasonable parameters. But there's, well, that was on shore. In the sea, you couldn't. Or in the sea, on the sea, you can't do that. But because there's nothing to do, or very little, because every room of the ship is for work, just about. All right. So, anyways, the mob mentality. That's what it will resort to if we don't keep the laws. We know that. We recognize that. But if there was no law, would you go out and do the bad thing? Would you go out and steal from the store? Would you go out? Maybe you wouldn't steal from your neighbor because you know that they might shoot you, but maybe you'd go out and steal from the store because it's Walmart, and they're big and they can handle it. And if everyone does that, Walmart has nothing left, and then they go to the next store and there's nothing left, and there's nothing left to steal anywhere. And then you go, well, I guess now I'll rob my neighbors, and they're robbing your place as you're robbing their place, and it's just kind of chaos. But would you be part of that, or would you not be part of it? And the answer to that is what your morals are. Is without the rules, what would you truly do? What is it that you want to do that you're not doing now because of the rules? Because of some fear of some deity that's going to punish you. If you and sometimes Christians will say this. I've heard them say this. I've read them say this. That if there wasn't a God, they'd go out and kill all these people. I'm like, really? So you're a terrible, awful, horrible human being that's only being held by this belief. Wow, I'm not, because I'm not doing that. So what's that saying? It means I'm better than you. I don't need a God to say it's wrong for me not to want to go and kill people, but apparently you want to go kill people, but you're just being held back by fear of God, I guess. What a despicable, horrible human being you are. And those that would encourage and laugh at people that feel depressed or suicidal or angry, like, ha 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 ha, yeah, you're a real piece of work. Now we know what sort of person you really are. You're a bad person, is what you are. And maybe that works in some cases. You can get away with it in certain circumstances, but you're not going to keep getting away with it forever. And the things that you use against others will be used against you. It's only a matter of time. Right now, you're enjoying it because everyone's on your side. But the moment they turn against you because you said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing, uh-oh. Now you wake up and realize, oh, the system I was participating in was a bad system. Oops. And that's why we can challenge laws. We can change them. We can affect them hypothetically, theoretically speaking. Adding laws is a tricky thing. You got to be careful with how much power you give the government. Taking away that control back to you. People are debating this. People are protesting the lockdowns and whatnots that are going on. And I got to say, I get where they're coming from, because it's like, look, this is too much. You've done too much. You gotta let them exist. Let people, if people want to risk their lives, well, yes, but they're risking my life, and it's like, then there's this whole balancing act, and it's like, okay, everyone is spaced apart, and I just saw a thing about this. This gal had her, she, spent all this money on it in her business to put, first it was, move your tables away from each other inside the restaurant that she has. She did that. Put up plastic walls. She did that. There's another cost, move outside, because, you can't have people eating inside. That's another cost that she did. And meanwhile, then they have a movie studio that had come in and got the parking lot and gets all these tables under tents that they're allowed to do because they have a lot of money, right? And she's struggling. So it's like, here's some salt in your wounds here, lady. You did everything we wanted. We're still making life difficult for you to operate and have a business that's successful. But look over here. This is fine, but what you're doing is still not quite safe enough. Okay, so money speaks. Okay, yeah, that's been that way for a long time. But this is it's like obvious. Let the people come. Let them eat. She did everything she was asked. It's enough already. Well, they all might die. Yeah, they all might die. But at some point, the freedom is worth fighting for, and where that line is like, well, if their freedom, but if they go out there and they eat, you might also die. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe I might die anyways. Who knows? I eventually will. I mean, you know. So the question in this political realm that we're now asking seems to be: is the freedom to risk your life and the life of others because of this virus worth fighting for? That is to say, is it worth fighting for freedom to be able to say, I don't want to wear a freaking mask. I have no symptoms. Oh, you're asymptomatic. How do you know? Test me. Find out. I don't know. We're asking this question. Do we fight over this? Do we fight over this particular freedom? Some say yes, some say no. And in what way do we fight over it? Do we fight over it intellectually? Do we fight over it legally? Or do we fight over it with fists and guns and pipes and bombs and whatever? If we can't use reason and logic, then the only thing we're left is physical violence, and that's bad. So this all goes back to those morals I was talking about. Each of us has values of how I want to live my life in X way. And then somebody somewhere says, no, you're not allowed to do this. And I have to decide whether or not it's worth fighting for my desire to do the thing that they told me not to do. I sometimes think about, because people bring up Germany and the horrors of the Holocaust, that it comes up like all the time, Godwin's law, they call it. It's like, why wouldn't the Jewish person just say, no, I'm not going with you? Well, because they would get shot. I'm like, wouldn't it? I mean, okay, so is that better to stand and say no and get killed then, or to get on the train and go where you know you're going to get killed anyways? Which is better? I don't know. You get to live for a little bit longer, I guess. And where there's life, perhaps there's hope. Maybe you think you can escape or something. But if enough people said no, would they, would that change things? I don't know. And they fought back. Many people did. They found ways to fight back. They found ways to sneak out and get out of there. Because they recognized that the system was one that they needed to go and walk away from. They walked away from homeless. I mentioned homeless in the past. It's worth the read if you haven't read it. Those that walk away from homeless, fantastic mini story, good message to it, I think. Well worth remembering. Those sort of things help me. That sort of narrative within the homeless stories, like I hope that I have those convictions. And I heard people say it, and I saw people, write this. Well, if who gets to be the president, I'll leave the country. And 4 years later, they haven't left yet, so I'm waiting. I'm like, you said you would leave. You don't have the courage or conviction to do the thing that you said you would do. Somebody, this happened a while back, that somebody was like, I'm quitting YouTube. I'm like, okay, bye. They left their channel there. And they made comments on things. I'm like, you haven't quit YouTube. You're still here. Leave. You said you were going. Goodbye. When you quit, that means you're gone. Yeah, I would have been, if they had just left their channel up and done nothing with it, okay, then you quit. Good. But you can't comment. You can't use YouTube to comment anymore because you quit YouTube, so you're done. You opted out. When I deleted Twitter, man, that was, oh man, I tell you, that was so enlightening and refreshing. I deleted Facebook ages before that, but the every time I would look at Twitter, it'd be like, here's another stupid thing somebody has said that I have to tell them why that's dumb. And then I'm going to get into this debate. And, I'm not going to, and then I'm going to wear myself out trying to get them to prove the point that they made, even though I might even agree with them, but because of the way they made their point, their argument sucked so much I have to point it out. So now they think I'm on the other side. I'm like, I'm not on the other side. I'm just pointing out that this is the way and this is the way to do it the right way. And it's like, and just forget it. And you just get lazy and start scrolling and responding really fast, and you're not thinking anymore, and you're just constantly angry and constantly getting little peaks of dopamine when people respond, and and it's like, oh, forget it. It just was it was driving me nuts. And then delete it. Oh, I'm free. I'm free. A friend of mine, Nazarene, Nazarene's music, her channel. Of course, the Converted Band album 2, the Epic Second out, and she was responsible for 3 songs. Covered Catapult Painting, very kind of her, and then made Open Your Heart and Key of Imagination from lyrics into actual songs. And I am very grateful for her, very thankful for that. She quit YouTube. Like, her YouTube is gone. And she has a reason for that. And I understand it. I wish she hadn't deleted her channel. And I'm like, why not just leave it up and just say, I'm done. I'm not going to do anything with this. But I understand sometimes it's easier to just completely cut it and it's done. If I left my Twitter up and didn't delete it, I might be tempted to go back and post or read stuff. But with it gone, if I go to Twitter, I can read somebody's thing and that's it. Or maybe I can't even do that. With Facebook, you can't do that. You have to sign in to read posts or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I don't have Facebook. I'm not going to get it again. If it was so important that I had to, or that I thought it was important for me to click on and see what it was, and it happened to be from Twitter, I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And now I don't have to I don't have the thing, so I don't have to respond to it. But if it still had my account, then I could, and then I would, and I'd be right back where I was. So I understand going cold turkey. It's just I regret that she did because her music was amazing, and it's like, well, all that's gone now, except for the ones that I saved. And I asked if there was somewhere I could direct people to, any links or anything, buy the music or anything. Nothing. There wasn't an answer to that question, so I'm guessing the answer is no. I don't. So that's a shame. But they have to. You have to. That's part of the morals of people is that they make choices sometimes that hurt or affect you. You miss them when they're gone, unless you wanted them to be gone. Then you're happy that they're gone. So these are the sort of thoughts I have that I'll say and speak out loud to myself as I walk around my house. And I just say these things out loud and nobody hears them. So it's like, well, now at least people have heard it. And it's on YouTube. And people can go back and maybe they'll get something from it. I don't know. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe something I said got somebody to think about something that they hadn't thought of before, and maybe they too can add back in a conversation with me at some point, like saying something in chat or in the comments or in a video or whatever, and that could be a good thing. Anyways, so thank you all for listening and your energy and time in doing so, and please participate in the YouTube fun. Uh, which I hate doing. It's like I don't want to become a YouTuber, but I am a YouTuber. But I hate seeing the click like and subscribe and all that. It's just ugh. On the other hand, I am losing subs, so that's not good. So help me out if you want to by putting a little comment that might help. Maybe I don't know if it will or won't. I'm told it does. So if you don't, whatever. Okay. Anyways, lobsters exist. We can all agree on that, hopefully. And have a great day. Or if you don't have a great day, uh, you know, I don't know. Too bad, I guess. Thanks. It was like, have a great day. What if I don't want to have a great day? What if I want to have a mediocre day? Have whatever day you're gonna have, and try to make the best of it. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say with that. I don't know. All right. See you later. Well, you know what I mean. Yeah. Well, maybe you don't know. You know. I don't know. End the broadcast. No, I'm not done. No, you're done. No, I'm not. You're done. You're talking to yourself. No, I'm not. Wait, who are you? I don't know. Who are you? Stop it. Just hit the button. No. This is fun. This is a bit that we're doing. Ah. Oh yeah, Gary, we're supposed to do a thing. Yeah, let's set up a thing to do, or we can do it now. Yeah, I don't care. If you want to set up a thing and go talk on your channel, we can do that. I don't know. Email me if you want to do that, Gary. All right. Goodbye, everybody.